Am I the asshole for getting my job back to get out of taking care of my husband's autistic niece? My husband, 30 male, became the legal guardian to his sister's daughter, 17 female, 2 months ago. She lost her single mom last year. My in-laws took her in, but they were too old. That was when my husband became her legal guardian, despite my concerns. He told me that he would take care of her completely. We got married a year ago, after 15 years of dating. I had a very successful career in a very physically and mentally demanding field. I had to travel a lot. We wanted to start a family, and I agreed to be a stay-at-home mom. I quit my job a few months into the marriage when I got pregnant. Sadly, I had a miscarriage. Then his sister died, and everything is on hold. In the meantime, I took a part-time job in a related field, which allows remote work, so that I am not bored out of my mind. My sister-in-law was a nurse. She quit her job to take care of her daughter full-time. Her daughter has a variety of issues, including nonverbal autism, a series of development disorders like dyslexia, and severe sensory issues. My husband says that he does most of the work, but he does not. Since I'm working from home part-time, most of the caretaking falls to me. She gets angry and has meltdowns all the time. She does not like the food I make, and most of the time she ends up throwing the plate at the floor or at me. I am at my wit's end, and it is just so emotionally exhausting. Around December 15th, my husband was working late and asked me to take care of dinner. She is very picky about food. The slightest change in texture or taste from what she is used to can cause a meltdown. She threw the plate at my feet, and I ended up bleeding. At that point, I called my husband and asked him to be home as soon as possible. He said he would not be able to. I went up to my room and told him I am not dealing with this anymore. He came hours later, and she was still crying. He was absolutely furious at me. He called me heartless and irresponsible. I told him I have had enough of both of their ungrateful behavior and told him that I am going to my mom's and I would not be back until New Year's. He panicked and tried to apologize, but I left. He called me every day asking me to come back. I finally came back, and he told me that my stunt had forced him to use all available leaves to stay home with her. He told me that he was glad I was back. I told him that I contacted my former company and got my old job back, and it starts next Monday. It is in office and requires a lot of travel. He asked me who was supposed to stay at home as she cannot be left alone. He has no more leaves, and full-time caretakers are too expensive. I told him he promised to take care of everything when he became her guardian and that it was his problem. As you can guess, my family supports me, and his family thinks I am being extremely selfish. So I am asking judgment from impartial strangers. Am I the asshole in this situation? Reddit verdict? Not the asshole. Top comments. Comment. This young lady is not your child. I feel terrible for her. How awful for her to deal with losing someone she loved and then being in a home with someone who does not want her there. I do not mean that as a you problem because it is not your responsibility to want her in your home. I wouldn't either, to be honest. Your husband said he would take care of it, so fucking do it. If he needed your help, he should have discussed that with you, and you could talk about if this is a relationship that can continue under those circumstances. Instead of expecting you to do the work without explanation, and when you sincerely needed help, he refused to leave work early? Shit, I'm sure he wishes he had left early after having to take days of leave. Not the asshole. Comment. Everyone sucks here. He could not just put the child in foster care. Life, even married life, whether you like it or not, is not predictable. Shit happens, and someone has to pick up the pieces and keep moving forward. You are on a team. The caretaking only falls to you because you took a work-from-home job, but now you have fixed that by taking your old job back. A nonverbal autistic child would absolutely qualify for government resources that include sending her to daycare, disability payments, and more. Apply for those and use them to keep your marriage happy instead of taking it out on your husband who, by your retelling, is working himself to death to try to be a good person and provide for both you and this person he never asked for but graciously took on. You told him, I told him I have had enough of both of their ungrateful behavior, and told him that I am going to my mom's and I would not be back until New Year's. He panicked and tried to apologize, but I left. He called me every day asking me to come back. I finally came back, and he told me that my stunt had forced him to use all available leaves to stay home with her. He told me that he was glad I was back. I told him that I contacted my former company and got my old job back, and it starts next Monday. It is in office and requires a lot of travel. He asked me who was supposed to stay at home as she cannot be left alone. He has no more leaves, and full-time caretakers are too expensive. I told him he promised to take care of everything when he became her guardian and that it was his problem. Absolutely not the asshole. For his family members who call you the asshole, they should arrange their schedule so that they can support your husband in the care of his niece. After all, niece is their family. Make sure your birth control is bulletproof, and I would do some serious soul-searching with this relationship. Your husband does not have your back, and neither does his family. To him and them, you are just slave labor, so that they can reap the benefits and enjoy all the credit. Despite being a special needs kid involved, you are not the asshole. Your husband did not know what he was getting into and probably assumed that you will willy-nilly take over the taking care of part of his bargain. You tried your best, but being a human, you have your own limits. The issue crossed that limit, and you were right in holding him up to his bargain, and no matter how much his family thinks you are the asshole, not for a second you should think of it. Your husband needs to get her proper attention and care, no matter how expensive it is, because he took the responsibility, and make sure the expensive part doesn't fall into your lap and he asks you for help in sharing that cost. Not the asshole. She is almost a legal adult, and he needs to get things in place now to be able to make legal decisions for her. You can't just wander into appointments and such and make decisions like you can when someone is a kid. Also, she needs her disability funding figured out, birth control, trust me on this one, and lots of other things figured out before legal adulthood. I did in-home therapy with autistic clients for a long time, and even for the severe ones, the goal is to decrease meltdowns and hopefully increase independence as much as possible. The goal is not to flip out if the mashed potatoes are not smooth enough or if the sheets didn't get the right fabric softener. I suspect if Mom quit her job and had no plan in place in the event of her death, she was fully devoted to spending her whole life for this purpose. The girl may not have received a good amount of therapy to work towards any real goals, and so her whole life has been a cycle of, I don't like this, tantrum, Mom fixes it, rinse and repeat. And it may feel good to spoil her and give in to every whim, but it's not good long term, as you can see. Having worked intensely with this population, knowing what I know, here is what I would do. Give him a deadline for working with professionals to create a long-term adult treatment plan for her, because this setup will not work for any of you. If he drags his feet or gets the plan done and then does nothing with it, leave. If you want your own kids, get out while you are still young enough to do it. I'm sorry, I know it sucks, but if you don't get a plan and he doesn't sound like he has or wants one, this will be your life 24/7 until you die, and that is unfair. Update. A lot of people were messaging me for an update, so here goes. I wish I could say things got better. My husband took a few days off to interview special needs nanny/caretakers. He ended up finding a good and experienced person to take on the job. He hired her for 9 to 6 during weekdays. One day she ended up saying she cannot make it for a couple of days due to an emergency. My husband had a meeting he could not miss and asked me to look after his niece for the day. I refused, and he took my car keys while I was getting ready and left before I noticed so that I could not go to work. I grew up with a narcissistic, gaslighting father who did stuff like this all the time. I told him to come back in 1 hour or I will call Child Protective Services, and once they get there, I will call a cab and get to work. He ended up driving back, and this turned into a big fight, and I told him that if he does it again, I will walk out and never look back. He apologized and said that he was just desperate. The worst happened 2 weeks ago. I needed to travel for a couple of weeks for work, and I could not find my passport. I am a very organized person, and I knew that I did not misplace it. I ended up calling the non-emergency helpline. They ransacked the house and found the passports hidden in his gym bag. It is a crime to steal passports, and they asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said no. Another fight. He told me that he needed me at home that weekend due to a social welfare visit, and he knew that I would not stay even if he had asked me. I kicked them both out of my house, and I told him I would call the police if he came near me again. My house is a premarital asset, thank God for that. I told him that I would be filing for divorce. The welfare visit turned into shit as neither of them were living there when the worker showed up, and the social worker also knew about the recent call to the non-emergency helpline. So, all in all, she was not impressed with our bullshit. He came by 2 days ago. He told me that he ended up moving in with his parents. They own and live in a small 2-bedroom apartment. That does not qualify according to welfare norms. He ended up asking me for another chance. He asked if I would consider letting him and niece stay until they figure it out, or she would have to go to state's care. He told me that there's no way he can afford rent and a carer and begged me. I told him that I could never forgive what he did. He knew my past with my father and he still went ahead and did it. He suggested they could move in and we can work on this at couples counseling. I told him that I could never trust him again and that it was over. He asked me if I could get his parents to take in the niece or even relinquish her care to the state if I would give him another chance. I think months' worth of anger burst that day. I told him that even though it may appear as if the problem between us is niece, it was actually him. He did not ask me before taking her in. He did nothing to help. He waved my concerns away whenever I felt burnt out. He took on a responsibility without consulting me and dumped everything on me. He chose to take my keys. He chose to hide my passport. I told him things may have been different. Him, niece, and I may have adapted and become a family if he had not made the wrong choice, at my expense at every turn. I told him to get out of my house, it was over, and I never want to see any of them ever again. I still do not know if what I am doing is right or wrong. I know people wanted some sort of happy ending, but it is what it is. I still haven't started the divorce proceedings yet, but I will soon. For now, I am taking a break as it had been a very emotional and draining couple of weeks.
What do you think about this situation? Who do you think is a jerk, and who did the right thing? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the Sneaky Pigeon channel to get more cool and interesting stories. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.